thesis, the appendix, things that you want to include that are not included elsewhere. When you put your thesis together, there's a lot of things that you might want to put in, or there's a lot of things that are important to put in, and sometimes there's things that just don't fit well on the inside, because when you're presenting your results, you don't want to present all of the data. You want to have it in a format where people can read it and determine what's going on with it. When we talk about a appendix, we're looking at a place where we can put things in so that the reader can go and look at it should they so desire. If they have no desire to look at it, then they don't need to go to the appendix. The appendix, by definition, is supplementary material at the end of a book, article, document, or other text, usually of an explanatory, statistical, or bibliographic nature. So it's supplemental material that is there to provide clarity to anybody who wants it, even though it is not necessary in order to be able to understand what you're doing. And it may include just about anything in it. So when you look at the appendix, there is a lot of open space or latitude that can be provided for the appendix. This is an example out of a master's thesis. And it says, Appendix 1, Overall Germination It Stands. An overall breakdown of germination by species at each repetition. And it gives you the genus or the species name. It gives you other things that are in here, and it tells how many germinated at each one. Now, this is very interesting because it gives me numbers, but I don't necessarily know what all of that means. But it is an informative area so that you can determine what you've got in here. If you look at Cyperus esculensis, it gives you a grand total of 321. It gives you an abundancy rate. But you can also see that the amount that you get germination-wise varies from a low of 1 to a high of 132. So it's not that it was evenly distributed everywhere. Some had a little bit, some had a lot of it. But it's in there. This goes back to something we've already looked at, and it says these are regression equations for chlorophyll A, B, and AB levels of the third leaf of bentgrass plants treated and non-treated with the respective levels of TCA second run. Variables are Y equals micrograms chlorophyll per milligram dry leaf weight, and X equals number of days after planting. So you could go back out and you could use these equations and you can see which ones actually fit the best, which ones were very good, and which ones were, I don't know if I want to use that equation, and what each equation was. If you go back and you look in the text doesn't give you these equations in there because there's just too much material for it to be usable by putting that in there, and you had a good representation of what was going on just by looking at the figure. On the top, you've got an ANOVA table for the response variable per plant tuber weight in grams for the greenhouse experiment, and it's got your treatment, degrees of freedom, your treatment error. There's another table below it, which gives you an ANOVA table, and you can see what your p-value is, what your f-value is, what your mean squares are, and therefore you can get a lot of information from it. The bottom part is a figure, and it says nanodrop spectrometer absorbance reading of purified virus aliquots at a wavelength of 260 nanometers. And that gives you the plot in there so that you can see that as well. And all of this is very interesting material for somebody who may be looking for that type of information. And here, this was out of a different one. This is all the data used in the study. It says from 1985 to 2014. They were looking at corn prices, they were looking at peanut prices, and potato prices, and soybean prices, and wheat prices, and SOI, whatever that is. Because again, this doesn't have a legend down on the bottom telling you what it is. And you can see how corn prices varied from one year to the next. They were looking at how were these impacted by different things that were going on in a specific year. When we deal with the appendix can have a lot of very different stuff in it. And you see it just by these 4 examples that we've got some really varied stuff in there. But the appendix comes down to what is needed in order to be able to support what you want to do. And it's there for people in the future to go back and take a look at, should they so desire.